Welcome to Lesson 5, Database Hardening and Admin Tools for Security. In this lesson, we're going to focus on securing your databases against unauthorized access and making them more robust and secure. We'll talk about a variety of techniques that can be used to get the right people the right level of access, while also keeping your database user-friendly. Let's get started. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to use referential integrity to keep your data consistent across related tables, create secure macros to automate tasks, and design a switchboard or navigation form that guides users to the right places. Plus, you'll understand how database hardening reduces risk and why unrestricted automation, like running a macro, can be dangerous. These skills are all about making your databases more secure and user-friendly. Before we jump into the technical details, let's take a moment to think about your current comfort level with these tools. Are you already familiar with things like referential integrity or switchboards? Maybe you've heard of macros, but haven't thought about their security risk. This self-check helps you determine a baseline for your learning today. All right, let's break down the term hardening in cybersecurity. Basically, hardening is about making your system stronger, less likely to be attacked or misused. That means going through your system, removing unnecessary features that could be exploited, making sure everything's up to date with patches and security fixes, and enforcing strict access controls. In the context of databases, it also means locking down parts of your system that don't need to be open to everyone, like sensitive tables or developer tools. The goal is to reduce your system's vulnerability to both accidents, like a user deleting records by mistake, and deliberate attacks, like someone using a malicious script to steal or corrupt your data. So what are some strategies for hardening your database? First, always make sure your database software is fully patched and up to date. This closes known vulnerabilities. Next, enforce strong authentication, so users need complex passwords or even multi-factor authentication to get in. Limit user permissions to just what they need, nothing more, nothing less. And don't forget to remove any features or services you're not actively using. Every extra feature is a potential door for attackers. If you skip these steps, you're at risk of users accidentally deleting records or attackers exploiting macros or scripts to damage your data. Plus, you might expose sensitive information if your access controls are too loose. Let's look at some specific examples of how to harden your database. First, input validation is key. You want to make sure users can't enter malicious or invalid data that could crash your system or open it up to attacks. Referential integrity helps keep your tables linked correctly, preventing mismatched or orphaned records. Macro restrictions are another big one. Disabling or limiting macros help protect against unauthorized code that could harm your data. Switchboards or navigation forms guide users to the right place and keep them out of sensitive tables or forms. Finally, set up user-level access control so that each user can only see or change what they're supposed to. Nothing more, nothing less. Now let's talk about switchboards, or as Access calls them, navigation forms. Think of these like a home page or a control panel for your database. Instead of letting users wander around, opening up tables and forms on their own, which can lead to confusion or even accidental damage, a switchboard gives them a menu of options to get where they need to go safely. This not only makes the database easier to use, but also adds a layer of security by controlling what each user can access. Switchboards and navigation forms aren't just about making things look nice. They're a key security tool. For example, don't include tables or design views on your switchboard. You want users to stick to the forms and reports you've vetted and secured. Use form level settings to control what users can do and consider adding encryption or password protection if needed. By implementing switchboards carefully, you make it harder for users to accidentally or intentionally access sensitive parts of your database that they shouldn't. Let's unpack why switchboards are so helpful from a security standpoint. First, they limit direct access to sensitive parts of your database, like tables, so users just can't open them up and make changes. They also hide back-end elements that you might not want users to see. This reduces human error, like someone accidentally deleting critical data, and supports role-based access, where different users see different things depending on their job. Finally, they help protect sensitive reports by only linking to approved, safe forms or reports through the switchboard itself. So how does a switchboard or navigation form make life easier for the user? By acting as a guided tour through your database. Instead of the user seeing dozens of tables and forms, a user will see a clean, organized menu that helps them get to where they need to go. This prevents them from accidentally opening sensitive data or getting lost. It also helps enforce role-based access, so each user only sees what's relevant to their job. Overall, it makes the database less intimidating and more user-friendly while boosting security. Let's dig into referential integrity. This is a database rule that keeps relationships between tables consistent. Imagine you have a student table and a grades table. Referential integrity makes sure that every grade record points to a valid student record. It prevents things like a grade being linked to a non-existent student. It also stops users from deleting a student that has a linked grade, unless cascading deletes are enabled. And even then, you need to be careful. This keeps data accurate, consistent, reliable, which is critical to reporting and analysis. Here's a quick summary of the database hardening techniques we've talked about. First, referential integrity enforces consistent links between tables, which prevents data from getting messy. Macro security controls which scripts can run, keeping bad actors from slipping malicious code into your database. Navigation forms guide users to safe places, limiting access to sensitive data and reducing the risk of errors. Each of these techniques play a big role in making your database more secure and easier to manage. Let's take a closer look at macros. Macros are like small programs or instructions that automate tasks in your database. They can do things like open forms, run queries, validate data, or even handle repetitive tasks automatically. They're incredibly helpful, but can also be dangerous if not properly controlled. A macro that comes from an untrusted source could contain malicious code designed to steal or damage your database. That's why understanding how to manage and secure macros is so important. Now let's talk about the difference between a trusted and untrusted macro. A trusted macro is one that you created yourself or was developed by a known, reliable source. It's stored in a safe, secure location, like a designated folder on your network, and it runs automatically without security warnings. On the other hand, untrusted macros come from unknown or unreliable sources, maybe a download from the internet or an email attachment. Access will usually block these macros or show a warning bar because they might contain harmful code. Always double check before enabling macros from untrusted sources. Let's walk through an example. Let's say you've created a macro that opens a student form or generates a report for your local access project. That's considered a trusted macro. But let's say you download a database file from a website and you're not sure about the file. It has a macro built in. That's an untrusted macro. It might contain harmful code that can compromise your database or your computer. Always verify the source and only enable macros if you know that they are safe. So how does Access help you manage this? When you open a database that is not in a trusted location, you'll see a yellow security warning bar across the top of the screen. This bar gives you the option to enable content, but think twice before clicking it. Only enable macros if you know the file is safe. On the other hand, if you've stored your database in a trusted location, like a secure network folder, Access will automatically enable macros without warning, which can be helpful for shared databases. Just make sure only trusted people can put files in that location. Want to manage your macro security settings? Very easy. In Access, go to the File, Options, then click on Trust Center and Trust Center Settings. You'll see options like Disable All Macros without notification, which is the most secure, and Disable All Macros with notification, the default setting that lets you decide case by case. There's also an Enable All Macros, but that's generally too risky unless you're absolutely sure of the database's source. Adjust these settings based on your risk level and how much control you want over which macros can run. Storing your database in a trusted location is one of the best ways to manage macro security. When you do this, Access automatically enables macros stored there, which is great for your databases shared by a team on a secure network. But always educate users about enabling macros only from trusted sources. Keep backups in case of corruption or compromise, and consider digitally signing macros to prove their authenticity. This layered approach balances convenience with security. Here's the golden rule. Always treat macros as potential risk until you know that they're safe. Before enabling a macro, verify the source, trust the content, and confirm that it's stored in a trusted location. This approach helps you get the productivity benefits of macros without opening the door to malware or data breaches. A little caution goes a long way in protecting your database. After everything we've covered, how confident do you feel now about using database hardening tools? Do you understand referential integrity, how to secure macros, and how switchboards enhance both security and usability? This reflection tip helps you identify areas where you might need to review or practice more. Remember, the goal is to feel comfortable applying these strategies in real-world scenarios.